It's time for our second semi-final of the evening. Thank you to Nature and Rapid for taking through our first. This time, though, it's Departed going up against Gamers2. I am Stress, alongside me is Pulse, and this is the EUS Challenger Series number 19, powered by Esports Venture. We're into the picks and bans.
Oh man, I can't get into this. I can't wait to get into this one because yesterday we were so hyped about getting into the game and then we were unable to get into it, but we're going to be seeing Gamers2, who did manage to take down their opponents yesterday, facing down Departed, who are basically X-Pulse with a couple members thrown in there, notably Baboonia and Perm, who have looked very good in this new lineup.
Yeah, Departed have looked really strong recently, and hopefully we'll see them continue that as well, as Gamers2 are formidable themselves. So both teams have a lot to earn here in this match, as it will land them a place in the finals. Game number 1, bans coming out already. Yasuo, Gragas and Lee Sin on the side of Departed. Over for Gamers2, they've banned Kassadin, Trundle, and are awaiting a third here. I wonder whether that'll be something like Kale. There it is, it's locked in. I was going to go with Thresh or Kale. It's Kale.
Yeah, it's gonna be one of those. And now that Thresh has been left open, I would be surprised if we didn't see him in this match. Usually you have like an Annie first pick, you can also first pick Thresh. It depends what these guys want to prioritize. It's interesting that the Lee Sin was banned up because, yes, most people are very good with Lee Sin, and there's lots of good junglers in the challenger scene who are exceptional Lee Sin players, but you don't necessarily see it as a targeted ban.
And strangely enough, now, I don't want to catch any flack for this, but what I'm about to say is something that may get a little heat. I don't feel like Morden's Lee Sin is his absolute best champion. It's not like Ku, where I feel if you don't ban Lee Sin against Ku, he's likely to crush you. That being said, Morden is exceptionally good in the jungle. That's not anything to be worried about, but I'm just a little surprised to see a Lee Sin ban.
Yeah, I agree. You see certain players who are exceptional with certain champions, and while there are a lot of people who are good with, say, Orianna, or in this case Lee Sin, then you would ban it out against that particular person. And Morden is great in the jungle, as you mentioned, with a plethora of different junglers, but not maybe necessarily Lee Sin compared to other junglers.
Now, I have a feeling there are other reasons for that, which, you know, I would have expected previously. As we can see, Dr. Mundo and Thresh have been locked in as well. The answer is likely to be an Annie here, and Shyvana as they're hovering over it. That would be a very standard lock-in. Now, they are taking an aggressive jungler off the board with Lee Sin, who is pretty consistent throughout the match, even if he gets a little bit less aggression early than he would like. And Elise is the other one here, so they're trying to maybe put Morden onto something that falls off a little bit more if he doesn't have such a successful opening game. That being said, Vi is still available, but Vi into Elise is tough to get out of the very early game.
Typically, Vi against most junglers is difficult, and because of so many of the junglers right now being so good at dueling, looking at Pantheon, looking at Elise, then it's difficult to pick Vi into it and make sure that you do well, because you have to have a good early game and hopefully farm your jungle enough where you don't get counter-jungled, and if Elise just finds you in the jungle, you're most likely going to die. It's very difficult to get away from the Elise early.
Yeah, that is very much so the case. Lucian looks like is the hover over so far for Gamers2. They are still awaiting what is, I would assume, to be their jungle and then mid lane. Jungle options, Pantheon, Wukong are available. Wukong is being hovered over and has been locked in. So another very early game focused jungle there on Wukong. Has a lot of utility in the mid game as well, with the Cyclone, can land perfect knockups on multiple members, and from there you can end up winning team fights. So Wukong has a lot of utility right now.
And it definitely looks like a teamfight composition that Gamers2 are looking for right now. After picking up the Mundo, who was great at split pushing, great at getting farmed, but he really shines in those team fights, just making it very difficult for people to get away from him. And when you get into big clumped fights where you're moving around as 5 and Mundo gets on you, he lands one cleaver, and you either have to engage or just let that person die. So Thresh is also going to be brought in there for the initiation, and also the peeling for Lucian.
Now, Lulu has been hovered over on the side of Departed, has been locked in, and now that's been said a couple of times already by a lot of LCS pros and top-level players, as well as a lot of the LCS broadcast crew as well, that Lulu typically doesn't have any terrible matchups. I think it was said by Hai and Skara actually on NALCS, is Lulu's pretty standard. She doesn't really fall to anybody particularly in lane, has great utility, and even Skara expects her to maybe be the next Orianna. being that kind of utility damage mid laner rather than all-out brute force.
Also going to see Jinx thrown in there. That's going to be alongside Annie for that heavy lockdown and laning phase, using those flame chompers into that stun with Incinerate, and waiting on the last pick from Gamers2. But looks like both of these teams will want to go for those fights. The Lulu in the mid lane, the great utility, as you already spoke about, Stress, is going to be used in those team fights with that Wild Growth coming in. And even though the damage isn't super high, it's 1.1 I think overall, and 0.5 on her passive with the extra damage from picks. Her utility is absolutely crazy. The slowing effect that she gets from her Q can almost be an 80% slow for 2 seconds, and the shielding that you can get can go up to something ridiculous like 800 as a shield.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy how strong Lulu can be in that middle lane. Now, what we're seeing on the opposite side is Nidalee being picked up. That's pretty much what I'd expect from a mid laner right now, is to pick something like Nidalee, something that has good siege potential, can farm fairly well on her own against this Lulu. It's not something that's all in, that's going to try and bully Lulu out of lane. It's going to just be something that can farm with her, isn't easy to gank, and really just survive through until the mid game.
Alright guys, we're going to jump to a quick commercial break, and when we get back we'll be in the second best of 3 today with the semi-finals. This is going to be Gamers2 facing Down Departed. We'll see you soon.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
Hello and welcome back to the semi-finals of EUS Challenge Series number 19. This is the second best of 3 we have today of Gamers2 and Departed. I am Pulse, I am joined by Stress, and we are ready to get into this game.
Oh, for a second there I thought we were getting early game aggression. All of Gamers2 were stacked around this river area. They may still do it, but I wonder. This will be the first one we've seen in a while, and NIQ is a little overextended, but just waiting.
30 seconds until
Well,
minions
usually
spawn.
there isn't any reason to group up in the early game other than to go for an invade or try and catch someone out in the mid lane, which is sometimes kind of scumbaggish if NIQ starts dancing, but he's going very far up, and if Fresh lands a good hook, it could spell the end of NIQ. Walking off to the side, and Gamers2, nothing's going to happen. I just got confused by the fact they were all stacking up, but alas,
Yeah,
nothing going to happen.
That's what happened to me. I was like, yes, aggression in the early... Oh, no, okay, they're just all going back anyway. It's okay. Defensive start is better now. Something important is Elise has put over a ward. They kind of noticed that Gamers2 went in their top jungle, so a nice ward over into the red area, but Kikis is going to get forced out here by Mundo.
Babooni is sitting up there, but yeah, Kikis isn't even going to attempt that. At least they know where Wukong's starting, knowing he'll be moving to the bot jungle, and maybe Elise can capitalize on that in a couple seconds, because Elise will definitely win the early trades against Wukong.
Yeah, that's a champion that's very difficult to outtrade in the early game. Now, as we see everybody head to lane, I wonder what that vision will be used for Kikis' advantage, because now he knows that they'll both be in that bottom lane around about the 3.5 minute mark. I wonder whether he'll use that in a defensive manner to know that he has to be there for a counter gank, or maybe look to gank another lane.
See what he does, he's just going to be picking up the Wolf camp instead, rather than go to the Rave camp, which is a decision that junglers can make, and then he'll be going over to red buff, getting that level 3, and choosing where he wants to go to. Lulu was fairly pushed up, so it's unlikely he'll go to mid lane. Nidalee even pre-6 is somewhat difficult to gank, especially when you have Lulu with no real hard CC, though later on into the game, Glitterlance can be significant hard CC.
Ocelot just took quite a lot of damage there before he was able to get the heal out, and he got chunked quite a bit there by Lulu. As you're talking about, the passive from Lulu will apply extra damage from picks on Lulu's auto attacks, or whoever picks is attached to at the time, and that's a pretty significant amount of damage in lane.
So Morden's going to find himself Kikis. He's going to throw down the ward, know exactly where he is. Kikis now can't use that route into the mid lane gank, and he probably realised that Elise was going to start blue, so that was actually a perfectly timed ward, and it would at least keep Ocelot safe for the next couple minutes.
Yeah, as long as Ocelot can get to 6 without being too under pressure, as long as he can farm fairly well, which he is ahead in CS, once Nidalee hits 6, it's then almost impossible to gank her, just because of the mobility that she gets in Cougar form. And that's just what Ocelot's aiming for here.
I've got to wonder about the mid lane matchup, because Lulu doesn't really have any bad matchups at the moment. She is just super strong in every single stage of the game, and Kikis going to find himself Morden throw down the cocoon, follow it with the standard combination from Elise, and Morden's dropping very low. Spear comes across the wall, only hits a minion, and Morden forced to flash out.
Yeah, you can see that Kikis' early game advantage from being Elise against Wukong there means that you're able to catch Morden on a camp, so he's already taken a little bit of damage, and that just gets amplified further and further when you start landing damage. Hook lands in the bottom.
They're going to be following up. Flay comes across, Bull putting down some damage, and that will be the zap coming across. Do we have confirmation on who Bull is? Is that Yuki?
I have a feeling it's one of Yuki's...
It changes every day.
it has changed a couple of times. From what I'm aware, Yuki is still on the team, although we will try and get some confirmation on that.
Okay, so bot lane still kind of chugging along as they usually do, and Jinx doing a perfectly normal job of just farming away. So the current farm is very even, however the health pot advantage is onto, as far as we know, Yuki. Dio taking some more damage from Perm, but this is kind of the bot lane matchup. There could be some action, but Annie will usually mitigate a lot of that.
Yeah, an interesting thing about the bottom lane actually is that a couple of AD carries up at the LCS level have actually started going away from Jinx recently, just because of how many stuns are in the current metagame and a lot of crowd control, that Jinx doesn't have that innate escape. However, when you can stun like this, she's fine.
Incinerate comes across into the Flame Chompers, locking down Diode for a long time. Bull going to be, well, backing off to his turret. Another Incinerate comes out along with the Disintegrate. Kickers didn't quite have the damage of that red buff ticking down. Diode landing a perfect death sentence.
Yeah, they forced the barrier out there and didn't even use Ignite even, so they're able now on the next engagement to know that Lucian will be pretty susceptible to that damage, and if they can land that stun, it might not even be possible to get away from it before dying.
Mid lane, Ocelot is basically out of banner and is absolutely just standing still. I'm not really sure what he's waiting for at the moment, or maybe he just assumed he was recalling, because he started recalling for a second, but he's going to have to stay in now with the huge minion wave stacking up.
Yeah, you can't really afford to let that minion wave go in that middle lane, especially when he's trying to race to 6. However, Morden is going to come into lane.
He's coming for the gank. He's only level 4, doesn't have the Cyclone just yet, and LIQ is punishing him. Ignite comes out. Cologne will be taking a beating, and again, Morden is just forced back to base. He has not had a fun time.
Yeah, Morden's really struggling here to find any kind of damage because he's just taking so much in exchange, and that's the problem with going up against a lane like Lulu with a Nidalee in lane, is you can't really do much as a Nidalee to assist in the gank either. You're relying on landing a spear. He's been hit by a cocoon, but the turret is going to be too much damage this early on in the game for them to dive.
Kickers is sieging this one in. Has he gone back yet? He hasn't actually retreated back to base. The Flame Breath comes across and just tags JWoww. He's going to be forced back again. And he's already picked up the Negatron Cloak, but that is just not helping against Shyvana.
Yeah, JWoww used the sadism early on there in that engagement and felt like he could still trade. Ended up taking so much damage, nearly falling to Baboonia there under the tower. And Dragon's Ascent is still going to be available as soon as the Fury meter does end up building back up for Shyvana, but this is one of those things that now JWoww's got to be careful. He has already seen that he can't trade that well in lane. Teleport is not available either, so he's losing experience to the turret. He might start to fall a little further behind. He's already 10 CS down.
So Gamers2 have been taking a pretty significant beating in the early game, but now when these guys start getting level 6, especially when Cougar form is available, Ocelot will start being able to roam around. Mundo will be able to get that sadism and use his teleport, hopefully to do something on the rest of the map. His teleport will probably be back online when Dragon is available, but the level 6 from Morden is probably the most important thing as we head into the mid-game.
And another important thing down in that bottom lane is right now there's a big item disparity. The Vampiric Scepter and Doran's Blade going against a BF Sword and a Doran's Blade means that for the most part, Jinx is going to outtrade Lucian, provided she can dodge a lot of the harass from Lucian. One stun is going to hurt Lucian an incredible amount and likely force him back. Still doesn't have barrier available, so that could be a Dragon opening here, as they're going to get the wards down to try and make sure that they can get the pick.
Annie's Tibbers is something that bot lane will have to think about. Tibbers going down into the Flame Chompers. That is probably a dead person, whoever that lands onto. At least is heading into the, well, at least into the bot jungle, picking up that red buff. Doesn't decide to go for the gank, but Dragon is a very real possibility in the next couple minutes.
Yeah, this is around the sort of time that we're starting to see teams really react to the Dragon calls. It's about the kind of time where you get the abilities available to get those fights in the bottom lane as well, when at level 6 ultimates become available. So you get the execute like the Super Mega Death Racket or the culling to make sure that you can output the damage, and as soon as you force 1 or 2 members back, it's a pretty easy Dragon to go from there. You can see Morden already reacting down to this bottom lane. Thresh Lantern into Cyclone is an incredible gank tool, and I would be surprised if Dude wasn't looking for that here.
Might just be waiting for that level 6 with the death sentence. Will that mean Morden's going to back off? It means he's going to back off and take down the white before trying again, most likely. But Diode, after this wave, will definitely hit that level 6 mark. And with all those ultimates available to be used, then they will be able to pick up a kill if they land that death sentence. Wukong, however, Morden is just going to carry on farming the jungle.
That was a really smart ward out of Perm. He had to go towards the tower to get it into the Tribush, but Wukong knowing there's a ward in that Tribush means even a Lantern gank now is not possible, since they'll react. Up in the top lane, JWoww's forced to sadism.
Taking a lot of damage. Kickers lands another perfect cocoon. Baboonia is going to be the one tanking up this turret. First blood is going to be going to Kickers.
And there's a surprising amount of damage in that top lane as well, when you take into account the fact that Elise is going to deal a lot, but Willis is in trouble.
He gets hit by the hook, and the Lantern comes through. Woolite has nowhere to go. He's going to be trading off against this and doesn't manage to do anything. Perm is now in bad shape. The crushing blow comes in. Cyclone from the flash should be enough to pick it up. They don't go any further. Perm escapes from basically nothing.
But that means Perm isn't able to react to anything. The difficulty, though, for Gamers2 is they're all a little bit low to commit to a tower or a dragon, so they're going to recall and buy up and try and establish more lane presence. And you saw right there the limitations of Jinx, that as soon as the stun is gone in lane, as soon as your flash is gone as well, you are dead to rights unless you can land every single part of your CC. Kikis is just trying to solo dragon here, but trying to get that aggro on the Spiderlings while there's people around is a little difficult. They should be able to get this. They will. They smite that away. But NIQ might be in trouble saying that. They're going to back away.
They still have the 3-man stack. NIQ takes the stray javelin. Perm is dragged back into the team. He's going to be dying for that dragon attempt. And he will get it. Another spear comes through. Doesn't connect onto its target. So that's a 1 kill for a dragon. We've got Departed coming out ahead. Morden heading into the opposing jungle, however. I think Kikis knows where he is.
That was really smart from Departed. They know Elise's strength is that using those Spiderlings, you are able to tank a significant amount of the damage down from Baron and get it from Dragon and get it very low. So knowing they'd recall down in that bottom lane, they switch focus over to the Dragon and steal it away before Gamers2 can secure any kind of lead to allow them to get it. Really, really nice reactions there.
Babunia uses his ultimate on the minion wave, and it's a very dead minion wave. JWoww's just going to do the same thing, signaling that Babunia will probably want to go back very shortly, but I'm not sure if using the ultimate was the right move there. He'll probably be back on cooldown by the time he gets up there again.
Yeah, one of those things that not sure Shyvana's ultimate is the best farming tool to be using, but nevertheless, you know, burnout would suffice. He does have an advantage, however. He is 15 CS up in lane, has that assist to his name anyway, and interestingly enough, Mundo's actually splitting focus on his build. Shyvana deals a lot of mixed damage, so the Negatron Cloak and the Chain Vest has been forced out here as well, so that's going to push JWoww further and further back on his first completed item, which is a fairly significant item on Mundo as well.
At least we know what he's going for. Most likely that Negatron Cloak will go into a Spirit Visage, and then the Chain Vest going into either a Sunfire Cape or a different item, but he probably won't be going for Guardian Angel first. That's not a typical Mundo build.
I was going to say, Guardian Angel is not what I would be going for first. It wouldn't really give you too much on that. But yeah, just in case anybody was wondering, I was alluding to the point Pulse was making.
So let's take a look at some of the other item builds. So mid lane, Lulu is slightly behind on farm, mainly because Ocelot has been heading off to the side camps like he's doing now and picking those up to increase his CS score. But Athenes and Holy Grail is going to be the first item, which is fairly standard. Most mid laners pick up the Athenes into a death cap. Just gives you a pretty well-rounded build.
And we can see how this Lulu is already working out here for Departed. This game is very slightly in their favor, but one of the things about this lane is they're able to neutralize a lot of the presence that a jungler can have on middle lane by picking a lane that is so safe and isn't matched up against a bad matchup that you're able to farm fairly well. He's a little bit behind, doesn't have that assist, but Lulu has a lot of utility in the mid-game fights, whereas Nidalee is pretty linear on the fact that AP Nidalee is there for siege. That is the only thing AP Nidalee is really going to do. Yeah, you got to heal off it, but it's not too much. Those spears are the bread and butter, whereas Lulu, shields, additional health, damage, slows. There's so much more to her kit in this mid-game that if Departed can get the fights that they want, Lulu will be more beneficial than Nidalee.
Lulu popping up that shield is still very healthy right now. Bluebell's going to be going down, and Wildgrove comes up. Bull is still firing out these auto attacks. Culling comes across. No one's blocking it right now. He in fact picks up the kill onto NIQ. That's going to be going to Diode. Kikis is still on the back foot. Woolite is throwing out the zap, but Ocelot is on the hunt for these kills. Into that Cougar form, gets stunned up with Disintegrate. Perm landing a perfect stun. Flash forward into that takedown, picks up another kill. Kikis is splitting off from his ally. Surely he's going to go down. Repel over the wall. He doesn't manage to anger the golems, and they won't be taking him down. Ocelot heading around all the way around the side. See if he can land that last spear, and Kikis going all the way to the side just to keep himself alive. However, that ward came out. I think Ocelot just tagged vision of him.
No, he's not in vision.
Wow.
Like, he's on the cusp of vision. Yeah, the ward did not see him. It was as if he was invisible there. I did check. on the vision on my spectator client. That was a really good fight there for Gamers2. They managed to pick up kills on priority targets such as NIQ early on in that fight, and Dude's use of the box there was absolutely sublime. It caught just about every member that was in that fight from Departed and made sure they couldn't get away. Even with the shields and the health that Lulu provided, they just ate too many spears, too much damage from Gamers2, and that was a really well-worked fight.
Gamers2 getting ahead early is pretty much what they want to be doing. Wukong suffers when he's behind, and now that he's got the extra gold to spare, going to be picking up a Spirit of the Lizard Elder and pick up another few damage items after that. It's fairly typical for him to go for Spirit of the Lizard Elder into a Brutalizer.
Yeah, that's what we're seeing more and more with these earlier game-focused, more damage-focused junglers, and we've seen a couple of different shifts around of damage within the metagame. We saw a couple of people trying to bring AP back into the top lane, a couple of damage-dealing champions into the top lane rather than tanks, but they didn't really have the best of time, whereas seemingly in the jungle where you're trading less and farming a little bit safer in the jungle without the presence of a beefy tank that's just going to soak a lot of your damage and then just give it straight back to you, you're actually able to survive with that damage a lot better, especially when you can get into lane and get ganks. And really that's the advent that we're seeing here, is we're seeing a bit of a switch to utility mid laners once again, with more damage coming out of the jungle, and it seems to be working here for Gamers2.
Yeah, Lulu is pretty similar to Kayle in what she can do. She outputs a lot of damage and also has the wild growth for the extra HP and has the shield, making them basically invulnerable. And when you have a Jinx, and we were talking before about Jinx maybe slightly falling out of favour because she doesn't have that escape, but when she's got an extra 1000 HP, then it becomes less of an issue.
Okay, so I've been given an update that it is in fact Yuki as well. Yuki is still on the team, so there we go.
Okay.
Just in case we were wondering. Sorry to completely wipe over that last point, but I just got handed that information.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I'm happy to now call him Yuki, which is a lot easier, and it's just nice to know the person we thought it was is actually that person.
Oh wait, no, hang on, I completely misread that. My bad. Reading messages while casting is pretty difficult. It's actually their manager filling in. Yuki is still on the team.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's not Yuki. My bad. Don't do maths on cast. Don't get messages, and here comes a fight.
Don't read while doing anything. Ocelot's going to be moving forwards. The hook comes through, doesn't land into the bush. Kickers did not go the right way, or at least where Diode thought he was going to be going. Cocoon comes across, just lands on Fresh. And meanwhile, Bull was actually taking a lot of damage. The Super Mega Death Rocket coming through, Perm, and they're not going to be starting off that dragon, but Jaywild's coming from the top lane. Cunning comes across, picking up one, gets the reset onto Relentless Pursuit. NIQ throws down the Glitter Lance, slows down the rest of the chasers. Perm is going to be falling again, and NIQ is still stuck around. He will also be going down. The flash does not get him over the wall. The hook misses, and so will the cleaver. Ocelot's going to be the only person following him. We should be able to chase down Lulu. Another pounce comes through, looks for the takedown. There it is.
Lulu has a lot of utility, but unfortunately Nidalee is pretty quick around the map, and Kikis might be caught out here as well. It looks like Gamers2 are going to focus on the dragon, then turn around, big spear eaten by Kikis. This is surely the end of Kikis.
Kikis is not in good shape. Ocelot is still chasing him down. The Cocoon comes across, will be locking down Nidalee, but does not lock down the rest of the members who will be picking up that kill. Mid tower going to be falling, and while all that was happening, Mundo did teleport in for the privilege of getting that 5 versus 4. That did mean that a tower was dropping in the top lane and the inner turret.
The inner tower in the top lane is a bit of a consolation prize there. It'll be good for map control the longer this game goes around, but Gamers2 now have a significant amount of gold. I mean, Ocelot is carrying 3.3k right now, so he's going to back off soon and probably put that straight into a death cap, I would imagine. He's a couple of hundred off that, but that will pretty much be a big power spike when he does decide to recall. It looks like that's what he's going to do. Gamers2 will buy more items, make sure they can keep themselves ahead. There's the death cap.
Despite this game being 1-8, the gold disparity is only around 3,000 gold, which is not really that big when you hit 20 minutes into the game. So Departed are still definitely in here, and Departed as a new team have looked very, very strong. I mean, Kickers, NIQ and Wooliter know each other from previous teams, but Baboonia and also Perm have looked really good in this new lineup, constantly winning their lanes. As we can see in this game, Baboonia is doing very well in the top lane.
Yeah, Baboonia's had a pretty good game here when you consider that Mundo is right now in the meta, one of the more consistent matchups that, I mean, Lemonation said that he tends to have poorer matchups against champions like Shyvana and a couple of other champions, so it's one of those things that Shyvana is doing pretty well here to be out ahead though, and there is a kill onto Mundo from that team fight where they teleported, but when you take into account the map pressure that's gained from that inner turret being down, Babunia has done a good job. And switching focus over to the mid lane as well, we're seeing Ocelot stay up ahead of Lulu on CS with that kill as well. So this is something that I'm not questioning about the Lulu mid, because the Lulu pick isn't there just for farming and for kills. It's very much for utility, and it still hasn't showed us the entirety of that presence. But something we've seen is the Lulu matchup doesn't necessarily win every lane either when it's used. So it's kind of one of those kind of safe picks right now.
It's a safe pick, but it's also reliance on your team also doing well. Unless Wooliter is outputting enough damage and is farmed enough, there's no real point in protecting him. That's kind of the same thing with, like, protect the Vayne compositions or protect the AD carry compositions. If they're not doing well, then your composition doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and I wonder whether we'll see Kog'Maw coming back. I don't think so, but that would be an interesting thing to see anyway, as he's a little bit underpowered right now anyway, but nevertheless, that's not about this game. That's more about trying to get Odie to play competitive League of Legends. But this game is game number 1, as we said, of the EUS Challenger Series 19 semi-finals number 2 between Departed and Gamers2, and we're deep into this game now, 21 minutes, and it's a fairly close affair when you consider that 8-1 is the kill score, but the gold is only 1,000, just over 1,000 difference. I've done maths again. It's over 2,000.
Mistakes were made, but mid lane, however, Ocelot has been farming incredibly well. 200 farm, plus 2 items, and a kill and 5 assists. His spears are really starting to hurt. Kickers was looking for the gank in mid lane, and looking for the gank in bot lane, dialed. Popped down to 50% HP. That's exactly what happened to Kickers in the mid lane as well.
It is. They've got to be careful of that.
Yeah.
I mean, the longer this game goes on, the more that could end up happening as well, and the longer the game goes on, the more powerful Ocelot's spears will become on top of that one as well. He's already having a good game as we go through this one. Head on CS, and I wonder how much gold is he carrying right now. Nearly 1,200, so I guess those Sorcerer's Boots will be finished up pretty soon on Nidalee. Also going to get more penetration, I would imagine, from a Void Staff. So it's one of those things that they need to start building a bit more magic resist on the side of Departed. There's a Negatron Cloak on Elise and a Spirit Visage on to Shyvana, but they just need a little bit more to start surviving some of these spears, because Ocelot is going to be dealing out a lot of damage.
I think when Dragon spawns in 1 minute 30, JWoww's going to have to make the decision whether his team is strong enough to go 4 versus 4, or he has to teleport down bot again, because if he does, Shyvana will definitely take an inhibitor turret. She's pushing so far, and Wukong more than cannot make the commitment to go up to top lane, while everything else is happening on the rest of the map. So I think Dragon will force that issue. It'll be interesting in the decision making of these players.
Dragon does seem to be the big lightning rod of forcing an issue. Ooh, I don't know whether you caught that on stream, but those big spear landed on that middle lane, already taking off well over a third of the health from NIQ, and JWoww has popped Sadism here. That's a lot of damage coming out from Babunia in that top jungle.
Making the issue happen in the top lane against JWoww. Dragon's Ascent comes down, Burnout follows up, but with Sadism being available and being used, then you kind of can't kill Mundo during that time unless you burst him down. Morden, Ocelot looking to collapse onto Babunia. The Dragon Descent already used, flash over the wall, and Ocelot misses the pounce.
Pounce is a little bit tricky to get over that. I will be honest. You've kind of got to be running to it from the angle to pounce. Otherwise, like trying to turn on the spot and pouncing forward is tricky. So you know, we'll forgive Ocelot for that one. It's you know, pretty tricky to do.
Yeah, when you're running like along the wall, it's almost impossible to turn around because you have to click on the wall, and sometimes it's just like, I don't know what I'm doing, and it just spins around, and you can't click over the pit either.
Yeah, if you misclick into the Baron Pit, you just turn on the spot and jump away from the wall. So yeah, one of the tricky little nuances on the champion, and looks like the teams are starting to collapse around the dragon area here. However, not really a fight Gamers2 want to take just yet. They're not quite in position, and Departed seem to have stalled this one out a little bit too long, though. They've allowed them to regroup.
However, that movement from Gamers2 before, that spear is really starting to hurt. But because they forced Babunia out, he was forced to go back to join the rest of his team instead of continuing to push top lane. Because if he had stayed up there and Mundo were teleported down and the dragon was taken or the fight had started, then he wouldn't have been able to push up to the inhibitor turret in time, and there would have been no point in having Nidalee and having Shyvana there at all.
Ooh, wow, NIQ. Every time a spear lands, it just is a little bit difficult not to wince in pain, as those are really going to start chunking people through. They already are. The magic penetration has already started to be picked up, and Gamers2 are going to look to start this dragon. They will get it. Here comes the fight.
And Repel has come up, and good luck Kickers jumps over the wall with Flash. JWoww has turned up in this fight. Flame Chompers comes down, it will be locking him up, but Baboonia goes in for this one. Herm jumps forwards, the box has come out, and finally Lulu has a right back from spawn, and now Gamers2 are actually on the back foot. This was a great call from Departed. A spear comes through, picks up the kill to Kickers, who is already low. Let's see if they can go one better. NIQ gets locked up by Diode, but it's not the person he wants to be trading against. 2 for 2 trade. Dragon goes down.
There was a big knock-up and burst damage coming out of Departed as Gamers2 started stacking. It looked like it was going Gamers2's way. God, that's difficult
to say. Yeah.
As, Baboonia ate a big spear from Ocelot to start that off and actually lost a quarter of his health in one go, and that's not good if you're a Shyvana, but they turned it around with massive burst damage in that fight and ended up coming off better from that. The dragon did, however, go to Gamers2 though, so they got the gold lead from that fight.
It's still at this stage not that significant. It's 4k ahead, which is big, but it's not enough to like end the game right now. And NIQ and the rest of his team don't really scale off. They scale well into the mid and late game in terms of damage and how they scale as champions. Shyvana is only becoming stronger and stronger. Level 14 right now. Picked up the Blade of Ruin King, well on the way to either Randuin's or unlikely to be Frozen Heart because you don't benefit from the mana. So probably going to be that Randuin's.
We were talking earlier about how Baboonia has been able to get himself a lead in that top lane and use it to his advantage. JWoww has managed to catch back up in CS, which is not as significant as the amount of pressure that JWoww is having on the match. We've already seen the teleport out earlier, and the fear itself of teleport, when the dragon is available and when they're looking to push other lanes and teamfight, is actually such a presence when you take into account that Shyvana is running Ignite. It means that every time Shyvana pushes up, she's a little bit vulnerable to other to ganks from behind, as well as Shyvana may get teleported on pretty quickly if JWoww is across the map and needs to be back there.
Cocoon comes across, tagged onto Ocelot. Volatile Spiraling also will hit him. Doesn't do all that much damage. Heal comes up as well. But Gamers2, they really start to excel when it comes into these sieging situations and the prolonged moments when there are lots of people stacked up in one place and have to stay there because of that Nidalee pickup, and that's why the dragon fight looked so good because of those 2 spears initially landing onto NIQ.
Warmog's armor has been picked up onto Dr. Mundo as well, so that's going to make him even more difficult to kill. We've seen him soak quite a lot of damage in the team fights as well. Ooh, Ocelot thought he was getting off a lot of harass, but actually just ended up taking a spear and had to back... So, I mean, Wooliter was landing a lot of harass on Ocelot, but Ocelot lands a spear and turns that one right back around.
He will be getting his health back with that Bloodthirster, but he'll be taking out time to do that during a team fight, or if they force a team fight with Morden's ultimate, which he will be the main source of initiation, unless they land a perfect death sentence. Those spears will start to really impact the pace of the game. Just one landing at max range will just turn a fight.
Yeah, that's the power of a Nidalee at this point, is now that Gamers2 are in the position to siege, this is where their composition will really start to take control, because they've got through the early game that they needed to be in this position, and now they can leave Mundo in one lane, forces Shyvana to be away from the fight. The rest of the team can just siege in the mid and bottom lanes and try and take down as many towers as they like.
Top lane Baboonia still trading off against JWoww, but it's kind of at this stage where JWoww can take enough punishment and then you say to them just like this, where he's pretty healthy. Ocelot's right in the top lane. Spear comes across, doesn't quite find its mark, but the cleaver will. Morden has also come up for this rotation. Tower's definitely going to be falling before Departed can get up there themselves. So a tower goes down. Well, this is kind of all Gamers2 can do, and they've pretty much been stalled in their aggression.
They have, but I quite like that small roam top. When you consider that Dragon isn't available and an inner tower is significantly more difficult to siege than an outer tower, having that top tower still up for Departed was pretty much just free gold there for Gamers2. They managed to take that down, gives them the time to now go back and buy and prepare for the next Dragon fight, and as soon as they've cleared waves out, they can establish ward control. They'll have the siege potential around that area as well, and deny a significant amount of vision and control from Departed.
Most of the guys from Gamers2 are on their second items and looking towards their third, while Ocelot is already on his third item, picked up the Void Staff, so those spears will not only, when they hit, do a lot of damage, but it will do a lot of damage against anyone, even if they've built that magic resist up, which is basically just Shyvana at the moment. Lulu has built some in the form of a Fiends and Holy Grail.
And that will, of course, give them a little bit of survivability, but interestingly enough, there's a Lich Bane now for Lulu, so those auto attacks are going to be pretty strong as soon as NIQ starts landing them, and we can see it looks like actually Gamers2 have lost a lot of the control on this Dragon area. They need to start forcing Departed back out of here so that they can set up for their own Dragon.
Gamers2 really haven't done too much around the Dragon area at all. It doesn't seem like they're all that interested. 20 seconds left, and they don't really have any vision. Diode puts down one. Morden is going to be assisting him, being his bodyguard while he gets around this area. Kickers is doing the same for Perm. And top lane, or just, well, it's definitely top lane, but Jinx is coming in from base. Lucen is still there, 7 seconds remaining, and they are looking for some sort of interaction.
They will start this Dragon as it has spawned as well. Nobody is really able to contest this yet, although with the stun still available with Tibbers, they don't really want to go too aggressive onto this Dragon. They've managed to stall out Gamers2. NIQ takes a massive amount of damage. Dragon is down.
Kickers gets it. Morden will be using that clone, and now is just trying to get Kickers out of dodge, but they go for the re-engage. The Hawk going to be landing onto Walleye. Literally the worst person they could have done, and the box comes up. Perm has also been locked up by the box. Bull gets one, dashes forward, pushes himself forward again with a flash. Doesn't quite pick up the kill. Kickers is trying his best to zone these guys away. Flame Chompers comes down, locking up that choke point.
And now JWoww couldn't teleport down to that as well. Kickers picks up a very nice Dragon during that fight, managing to secure that for themselves after they forced Morden away from it. It looked like in the top lane, Babunia actually went aggressive, used the ultimate to try and just fight JWoww as much as possible, so that even if he did teleport, he wasn't going to be on a lot of health to get into that fight, because Sadism was used as well, so JWoww had no way of getting down there. That was a really nice fight again for Departed.
And Departed, they picked up the Dragon and were like, okay, great, we've got the Dragon. And then he started to back off, and Kickers was still in the Dragon Pit. So they had to go back in, and Diode just stood there and hooked them. That was basically what happened right there, because Elise just couldn't get out. And had already used the flash, but it hadn't used the flash by that point, but didn't want to use the flash. And if he had just jumped over the wall, that might have gone a little bit smoother.
Yeah, it's one of those things of trying to hang on to summoners sometimes, but it looks like Departed will be taking down another turret. Those spears are so close by Ocelot, just getting sidestepped at the very last second, and Departed is starting to close the gold gap a little bit. It's been hovering a little bit wider than this one, but that Dragon plus that turret will help here, but they've got to be careful they don't get sieged away from their own tower. They're off to the side here already, and they might be getting collapsed upon as JWoww is still in that top lane.
Those Spylings are very good at tanking up those spears. JWoww gets hit up by the Glyph Lance, but not sure they have enough damage to chunk down JWoww all that quickly. Glyph Lance again just barely scratches Mundo, and because we really haven't seen very much interaction from the top laners, I'm interested to see what kind of impact that has on the next team fight.
Yeah, it's really all down to that teleport and whether they can get that off without Babunia answering. Kickers gets hooked. That is not the option that they want to take here. But there's a big wave down in the bottom lane that I don't know whether that'll be sorted out before this fight kicks off. So any more time that they can stall means they may end up getting another tower from this completely uncontested.
Gotta be careful. Kickers takes another spear, and those hooks have always been finding themselves Walliter in so many of these trades. It's really started to cause some issues for Departed, but just by Gamers2 being around the Baron area means that Departed has to stick around. If they commit someone to bot lane like they're doing right now, Walliter's gone back to base. In fact, he's going to go all the way back up to Baron area. It just means that everyone has to stick around because they have no reliable way of getting there quickly.
And the problem with sending Wurlitzer to the bottom lane now is it was already too late. The wave had already been sorted out, and the cannon wave was on its way, meaning their own cannon wave would hit first and end up sorting that wave for them. So that wouldn't have pushed in anymore. It would have needed to have been an earlier call. There's the coin. Tibbers does not hit the mark.
That's a big ultimate down for the team of Departed, and Dowd goes for this engage. It will probably turn out a lot better. Perm gets hooked, cutting over the wall. JWoww has entered this team fight. Morden's off to the side and finally gets in there. Cyclone's going to be used on Kickers, but that's the only target it gets used on. He's going to drop so will the opposing jungler. Baboonia gets out of dodge, flashing over that wall. NIQ is still stuck in this team fight. A cleaver will land, and he will go 6 feet under. 3-for-1 trade. Gamers2 looking good, and this will definitely be the Baron.
Man, JWoww just ate the Super Mega Death Rocket, didn't even flinch as it flew towards him, as Jinx right now just doesn't have as much damage as she needs to chunk through things. Yes, there's a Bloodthirster, Last Whisper, and a Static Shiv, but Mundo is so very well farmed right now that he's too tanky for that to matter this point. And now they switch their focus towards Baron. Gamers2 continue to pick things up. They had a little blip giving away turrets and a dragon to Departed, but a Baroned up Siege team is going to be very difficult to deal with now without a perfect stun landing from Perm.
So far, Gamers2 have not been able to penetrate the outer wall of turrets, or rather the inner wall of turrets, I guess, both inner turrets, but they haven't been able to take any of these down. Now the Baron buff is time to see if they can finally make some headway. They have Nidalee, who is a fantastic sieging champion. Lucian is okay, he's not as good as Jinx or even Caitlyn for the long-range poke at those turrets, but the extra damage from that Light Slinger passive will definitely help out.
That will add extra damage, as he said. That's one of the strengths of the passive from Lucian. Is really, I don't know whether he... This is an interesting point that I know is wildly off topic, but I wonder whether he'd be as well played if that was any lower at all, because it seems to be just at that sweet spot where, you know, it's good enough to be significant in lane, but not too strong like Draven's old passive, where you kind of just walked into lane at level 1 and just won the game.
Yeah, Wicked Blades was so strong, and people really got used to last hitting with Wicked Blades, the passive, and I definitely did that. And then when they had the change, I think that was one of the reasons people kind of went off him, because they were used to that extra damage. And now finally Draven's come back into the meta and everyone's realised he's still strong. Morden has been cloned up, and the Dark Passage will get him to safety.
Kikis with the smart buy of the Banshee's Veil there. He's eaten a couple of those spears, so already knows that they want to mitigate a lot of that damage. So I wouldn't be too surprised to see even more being picked up. You can see Wurlitzer has started to pick one up with the Spectre's Cowl there as well. So that's an item that's really showing prevalence in the current metagame, is the Banshee's Veil is so good at defending a lot of the engage and siege tools that it really is a vital pickup for a defensive item.
Especially from Kickers, who's going to be the only tanky member really for the team of Departed. Wooliter is playing with fire. He's trying to take down the mid turret. He will get it. Ocelot's already on his face, but it doesn't have the instant burst damage to take him down. That was a really smart rotation from Departed, but Mundo's coming from the top lane, trying himself NIQ and Perm. They just can't lock him down. Spear comes across, doesn't quite find his mark. Tibbers comes out as well. Kickers has come off to the side. Hook lands onto Perm. Here's the box, completely locking down that choke point. Kickers lands a perfect cocoon, but they're getting completely chunked. Dragon Descent gets him back to turret. JWoww is literally taking no damage from this turret, and G2 are going to force their way into the middle inhibitor turret.
Perm got annihilated by that spear. I mean, he had shields on him, everything to try and allow him to survive, but one spear with a little bit more damage from the rest of Gamers2, absolutely decimating Annie, and Mundo just shrugged off the stun. What they need against his team composition is a good Tibbers ult, because that's what beats a siege team, is hard engage. If you don't have that hard engage tool available, you're going to take a lot of damage like Ocelot.
The hurt is going down onto Ocelot. It's not going to be enough damage, though. Baboonia is going to be tanking up that death sentence and may actually fall despite him being so tanky. The Nimbus strike into Cyclone. Morden gets locked up underneath that turret. Woolite was the only one left defending. Flash is going to be used. Bolt takes another zap across the wall, but the first inhibitor will be falling in this game.
It will, and 50-second death timer on Baboonia, and Baboonia is one of the only members that can really soak a lot of the damage, but Gamers2 don't want this. Stun lands on Ocelot.
They've got the home guard and they nuke down Ocelot. The Super Mega Death Rocket is actually overkill. It just goes right over the corpse of Ocelot.
just wanted to make sure they got the vision of Ocelot died on the way.
Make sure he's dead, because he's been quite elusive this game. As the first death he's had, JWoww does not have the regen to tank through 4 members of Departed wailing on him.
Sadism not available, so he was relying only on his passive regeneration and the Warmogs, but not enough. You have to wonder whether this is a little bit over-aggressive by Gamers2. You saw them start to try and turn away, but really nice answer by Departed to catch up with a couple of members and start taking down, well, they're looking for a turret, but they've already got, I believe, that's a cannon wave in the bottom lane, super minions in the next wave, and Departed are starting to do this without minions. They've only just got to the tower. They'll get the tower, but they might be forced into a fight here with Ocelot back up in 10.
He's still got 10 seconds until he's back on Summoner's Rift, and another 25 seconds for JWoww. However, that's going to be Walleye through it again, getting caught, but the Wild Growth keeps him alive, and very healthy diode drops. The Cyclone is back off cooldown, but Morden is getting continuously slowed down. Super Mega Death Rocket hits the clone, and the AoE damage takes down Morden. Bull is surely going to drop. The extra HP from Ocelot is actually very significant. That healing is insane with all that extra AP, and Departed being so low will make the smart decision to back off. The teleport is coming in from Mundo and see if he can cut someone off. He doesn't have the Home Guard passive. Actually, I think he got interrupted by Dragon.
Dude channeled his inner dead shot there and didn't miss with that hook. It looked like it went through. Oh no! Lucian face checks into a mid laner. They're trying to stall out for the bottom lane, but I don't think they can really do this.
Lucian got dropped and Departed are still very low, but Baboonia is just sitting in between Mundo and Ocelot. They're still a 5-man stack, but they're being stopped from recalling, and the super minions are doing work.
They're actually not, because the first super minion wave spawned for Departed, so super minions against super minions just kind of cancels each other out here. Oh wow, and the spear cancels out Lulu.
Where did that even come from? Ocelot over the wall lands a perfect spear. NIQ is going to be dead for 60 seconds, and that's a long time for them to be trying to keep themselves alive.
That's a significant time to try and survive against this kind of composition, which is going to start pushing down turrets pretty quickly, but they will work their way through the last inner turret of the game. So we're down to Inhibitor and Nexus turrets for the side of Departed. And you have to wonder how long those are going to stand for here with this siege composition. Baron is up in 40 seconds. That's going to be the next lightning rod.
I think I just heard another spear landing onto Perm, and did quite a lot of damage. Took him down to 50% HP. I think he had Molten Shield up as well.
Yeah, and he does have that little bit of magic resist coming from Chalice of Harmony. It's not too much to write home about, but it will do a little bit of the work there to soak some of it.
Baron up in 15 seconds, and I assume these guys will be fighting over that Cyclone. Those big AoE ultimates are going to be doing a lot of the work in this team fight. We need to see a good Tibbers though. I think we've seen one good Tibbers this game, and that was the fight that they won. So Perm again gets caught. Ocelot doesn't choose to take the lance and going to be throwing out that Javelin. Box is being used though, and Tibbers is still available, and Box is on a significant cooldown.
Am I going crazy, Pulse? Or did Wooliter have a Spectre's Cowl earlier? I'm almost positive he did, because it was to stop the spears from the Banshee's Veil. I'm like almost 100% sure on that.
Lucian still has a Spectre's Cowl.
Yeah, Lucian does, but I'm talking about Jinx.
Right.
I'm almost positive Jinx had a Spectre's Cowl and has sold it to go Blade of the Ruin King.
I'm not sure, but that's a Tibbers coming in. That wasn't a stun Tibbers though, and the Cyclone comes up, culling over the wall, has taken down, it doesn't take down NIQ, and Baboonia is still right in the middle of the enemy team. Randuin's tags 3 members, and Wooliter takes another spear. Maybe that Banshee's Veil would have been the right pickup.
It certainly would have been if he was going for it. I'm starting to question my memory here, but that's the end of Kickers.
Yeah, the reason I commented on Lucian was I was assuming maybe you saw it from the opposing team, but...
Yeah, no, I knew he had it, but I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I guess they want the extra damage against Mundo for the percentage, and they want Wooliter to be the one to do that.
Maybe
that's
someone
sacrificing defense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're really lacking on damage at the moment. That doesn't seem to be their big issue. Either way, he's dealing a lot of damage. 434 farm at 44 minutes is no small number.
No, it's much the opposite. It's a rather large number.
It is.
And I was a little surprised that Tibbers came out that wasn't a stun. I mean,
Yeah.
so often when you see Tibbers used, it's a stun because the area of effect, the cast range, everything about it, the extra stun duration as well. I'm just a little bit, not confused, but questioning that Tibbers attempt.
Usually when you say flash Tibbers, you just assume it's going to be a stun. That's why people don't say a flash stun Tibbers, because it's always going to be a stun Tibbers.
That's why I was like, and the stun doesn't land, even though I was like, that surely should have landed.
Well, Tibbers definitely landed, but the Pyromania was not up. Bull going to be taking down these wolves, which is a small objective. The stun lands onto J1, not their priority target, since he has almost 5,000 HP and 333 armor.
Deathfire Grasp has been picked up onto Baboonia, though, onto Ocelot to deal with Baboonia. I was going to say, Deathfire Grasp, Giovanna, not the best of itemization choices, but I have to imagine that is to deal with Baboonia, because Baboonia is one of the only really problematic members of Departed. Kikis has a fair amount of health himself, but doesn't really have that much to soak up all of the damage. You can see spears are doing a significant amount of damage on their own.
When Departed are in a small bottleneck, it's very difficult to dodge all these skill shots coming through. Lucian is wailing away. This is JWoww's literally taking no damage and is rechaining any damage he does take very quickly.
That's another turret going down in favour of Gamers2, and now they're going to focus again on this middle inhibitor. I don't know what Departed can do here, because...
Well, there's the AD carry.
There was the AD carry, and that is the game. I don't think there's any way that they can really survive this. That spear was too crucial.
Cyclone comes in, and this is just mop-up time for Gamers2. Baboonia is going to be dropping into the death chamber, which is only a few inches away. The Nexus will be falling, and Gamers2 pick up the first game of this best of 3 in the semi-finals of the US Challenger Series.
And that was a pretty close game as well, 46 minutes long. I mean, Gamers2 were ahead for the majority of it as well, but